Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, it's time!
Three on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game!
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Float game for the win! Taylor's gone. Goodbye. Touchdown, Indy. Woo! I-U America. They got a football team now.
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome into another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this wonderful Tuesday. Another fantastic show ahead. Mike DeCourcy will join us here in a little bit, and plenty more to talk to, of course. The SEC has 5 of the top 7 teams in the AP basketball poll. Marshall opts out of their bowl game. Players having to leave teams that are wanting to enter the transfer portal, but having to leave their teams while the season is still underway. It's crazy. Dr. Bamba answered questions in front of in regards to his case, and lots more to talk about. College football playoffs, they're here, baby. This Friday, the opening game, round 1, as Indiana heads to South Bend to take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Welcome to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. Grateful to have you as always, no matter how and where you're listening. One of our great affiliates like 97.7, ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville, and our Southwest Indiana friends up in the region on 1230 AM, 104.7 FM, the voice of the region, WJOB. And over in Fort Wayne on Fort Wayne's only sports station, 1380 The Fan. Keep it locked in right here all day, every day. No reason to change. And or if you're listening on or watching on YouTube, we appreciate you there as well. Of course, lots of folks saying hello on the Andy Moore Honda hotline this morning. Fozon, been a minute, from Ahmad Jordan, all with us. Donald down in Atlanta, Fred over in Pennsylvania. But we appreciate each and every one of you, no matter where you are, what's going on. Shell Sizemore, the portal shouldn't allow that. They need to tweak the rules for sure, absolutely. But what can you do? Here's the problem. It butts up next to the school semester. And these guys need to be at their next school or want to be at their next school for spring football. Their teams want them there for spring football. Therefore, they have to be there for the spring semester. It is an issue. I don't know, and I don't know the fix. Normally, I've got an opinion. Oh, they should do this. They should do that. I don't know what you do in this situation. I know it's a monster that has gotten away from them. But the portal itself, I don't have a problem with. It's like every coach, every fan probably, it's the ability to transfer at will over and over. There is nothing like that anywhere else. I'm not sure is great for the college game of any sort. The portal has been awesome for college football in the least. We've seen the parity that has come forth. I don't know what you do, to be honest with you. My one thought is how do they not start using NIL to tie them down for a full season? I don't understand why you could not make that a requisite. Hey, we're going to pay you whatever. But the first half of that comes here, and the second half only comes when you're still in good state or still at the university, whichever, at a certain time. And that time would be well into the next semester. Brian suggests that if you're on a CFP team, you can transfer, but you have to play out the season. Probably that's not a bad one. I don't see why that would be a problem. As a matter of fact, I've seen players say that they're entering the portal, but they're remaining with their team through the end of whatever they're going through. That is the right way to go, personally. Penn State's backup quarterback is leaving. He's entering the portal. He played this year for the Nittany Lions, and the Nittany Lions are a CFP team, obviously. Now they lose their backup quarterback as they enter the playoffs. And so that's not that I'm crying for Penn State. It's just that that's definitely an impact. I mean, that could happen to any team, anytime, anywhere at some point. But that is something to look forward to talking to Mike about. He'll definitely have an opinion on it. How about the Marshall? Marshall had to opt out of their bowl game. How important? I talked about this yesterday, I believe, but that's just ridiculous. You have to be able to tie NIL into this somehow. To get the NIL, you have to freaking stay. You can't take the money and run. If that's what they're allowing them to do, then that's their own fault. How stupid are you? Create a rule. Change it. It's leave it to college sports to be the mess. It always seems to be. How about the 5 of the 7 SEC teams at the top? SEC basketball, not football, basketball. Now SEC is the best basketball conference in the country. They've got a lot of good coaches. A lot of good coaches that have done a lot of good things. Fred pointed out Caleb Banks, former Hoosier, had 33 points for Tulane in last game versus Florida State. 17 points, 6 boards on the season. Yes. I think we've seen other players leave and have success. I don't think you're not going to get an argument out of me. Here's the thing. I'm going to tell you straight up right now. I'm not going to beat on this dead horse as far as the basketball program. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm not hung up on what's happening right now. Losing to Nebraska for the 4th straight time. Is that acceptable? Of course not. Being in the position they're in, losing every non-con game that is of substance by double digits. Is that acceptable? Of course not. But guess what? Nothing I say or do is going to change that, because nothing is going to change that until the end of this season if there is change. If change is what you want, then you're going to have to endure more of this, because they do not make changes after successful seasons. Think of it as a breakup. How many people break up because their relationship is just going so damn well they can't stand it? That doesn't happen. So into a little life, a little rain must fall. If you're not wanting change, you still have the remainder of the season for this team to turn things around. And that's just how it's going to be. And so therefore, I don't see the point in just moaning and bitching and complaining the rest of the year about it. I don't why put yourself through that? Resign yourself to it's one of these two scenarios that I just laid out. And that's just the long and the short of it, period. But I'm not going to sit there and beat on the dead horse, and I have my opinions on it, but it doesn't matter. The facts will lay themselves out. No one will need me or anyone else to talk about that. Stephen, you like to go off. He's a big Mike Woodson supporter, which is fine. But I think that you're not using something about Matt Painter as Painter has lost 2 of the last 3. Did they get rid of Matt Painter, you ask? Well, Matt Painter had his team in the Final Four championship game last season, if I recall correctly. Matt Painter's team has won back-to-back Big Ten championships, if I recall correctly. So if you want to microcosm in a 3-game stretch and compare that to 4 years, well, then go right ahead. But you're being completely disingenuous, and that's not a very educated look, to be honest with you. It's not a realistic look, I can tell you that. It is completely unrealistic. But that's how some people are unrealistic, because they can't see beyond their own beliefs. Hence, that's why I just said about the season's going to play out. It will take care of itself one way or the other, no matter which camp you're in for Indiana basketball fans. It will take care of itself one way or the other. So just get through the season. I'm not sure who was on Mike Woodson's butt. Must have been something in, because it wasn't me. But yeah, that's just funny. Funny stuff. But that's how it goes. What else we got going to talk about today? Oh, yeah. Dr. Bamba, the Indiana case with the basketball players. Haven't talked much about it, but attorneys for the players that are asked a judge to compel former team physician Dr. Brad Bamba to answer questions about his conduct, including his conversations with then coach Bob Knight as part of the Title IX lawsuit. And Bamba refused to answer 45 questions during a 75-minute deposition on December 4th on the advice of his attorney, citing his Fifth Amendment right to avoid self-incrimination and his right to due process, according to the filing. So that's where that is. And there's not a lot more for me to talk about in regards to that, really. I'm only going to report the facts of that matter. I've spoken to a lot of people, but those are conversations that stay in the confines of an internal conversation. When asked about Bamba's refusal to answer, a spokesman for Indiana referred ESPN to a statement the university issued in September after the allegations became public, saying it had hired an outside firm to conduct an internal investigation into the allegations. The spokesman did not provide an update on that investigation. So that's where that is. And that's the long and the short of it. Robert says if Mike Woodson wins enough to make the NCAA, he will likely get another season. This is going to be a long season. I don't agree with that. I don't think just making the NCAA tournament is enough. But to me, that's average. Just making the NCAA tournament is average. It's more than time for that basketball program to start moving up. They've not done anything in 4 years. You've got to get out of the first round of the NCAA tournament besides just make it. There's too many programs around you that have gone through the same thing and have already sailed past Indiana. Steven says, where did it go? I lost it. It says, if you have some people on your, I don't know what page, what do you mean, that just don't like Mike Woodson, what he's talking about, but Matt Painter gets a free ride. Steven, first of all, you cannot compare those two. Matt Painter has been a very successful college coach. Mike Woodson has not. So I don't understand your argument, to be honest with you there, because there is not an argument. That's not, you're going to need to find a better example because that one does not fly. It's not about liking or disliking. I don't like or dislike either way. My opinions are based on the facts of what is going on, what is going on, what I see, and that's it. It's not based on a like or dislike. That's for fans. I don't care. I just tell you what I think to be factual. Now, if you don't like it, that's because it probably goes against what you think. I don't care about that either. It doesn't change my thoughts, my opinions. Yeah, I love to see the argument, but it is what it is for Indiana fans. And I don't think it's a secret that it's not going well, but we've got plenty to talk about as the great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News will join us next. Always look forward to talking with Mike because we get to talk about everything. We've got more coming. We're back with it right after these messages from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at bendavischevrolet.com and bendavisford.com.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com.
Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Maria in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Maria Island, Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Joining you here on this Tuesday, Mike DeCourcy, our good friend from the Sporting News. How are you, sir?
I am very well, Jim. How are you?
Great. You look like you're fetted up and suited up, ready to do some Big Ten action today.
Yeah. But I don't see any action until Saturday. So,
well, you got to get prepared, baby.
It's like game.
You got to start getting loose, working out, stretching.
Absolutely. I need all of the above.
Don't we all? Man, I'm afraid if I tried to stretch something, it would break. I have no doubt about it at this point, without question. Lots to talk about. The SEC right now has become the best basketball conference in the country, which it's nice to see this move because last year it was probably the Big 12. But right now the SEC has 5 of the top 7 teams in the AP poll.
Can we stop there?
I was going to say it doesn't mean that they're the great, but yeah.
And it's nonsense. I mean, who watched Saturday's game against Illinois and said that Tennessee team, that's the best team in the country? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Come on. Are they very good?
Yeah.
They're very good. They are.
But they're not the elite.
Oh, come on. I mean, they are a significant defensive basketball team. I mean, like A+. But you play 2 ends. And I'm not trying to be critical because I like Rick and I like the program. And but the poll, it's just nonsense. If you're trying to tell me a team that struggles that much to make a basket is the best team in the country, what are you trying to tell me? I don't understand what the poll is about. They haven't beaten the best schedule. They aren't the most accomplished team. They are undefeated. That's nice, but until Saturday, they really didn't have a great opponent. They played Baylor. Baylor's okay. May get good, but they weren't good when they played them. It's not been a significant schedule. Florida's played. I mean, they haven't played no one, but they haven't played anyone that's suggestive of a top 10 ranking. I think their best win is Wake Forest, a compromised Wake Forest team that I thought was going to be borderline top 25 and lost 2 starters, at least one, maybe 2 starters within the first few weeks of the season. I mean, the poll makes me crazy, as you know, but this nonsense is making me totally crazy. You could tell me that 5 of the best 7 teams in the country are in the SEC, and I would say that's probably true. It could be true, but it ain't those 5. Some of them, yeah, but not all of them.
Yeah, I agree. It's just this is a great question about the polls, period. And not just basketball, all polls. They don't seem to be based on truly who is the number 1 or number 2 or whatever. It's, well, who deserves it next? Who's in line? And I'm like, I vote in a lot of different things. I don't think that way. And I don't vote that way. I'm like going, it doesn't work. I don't care. There were certain times when a team lost. I'm like, yeah, I know they lost, but I still think they're the better team. If that had been on a neutral court or a neutral field. Right. And I'm like, I'm not, just because that didn't happen, I don't think otherwise. So, but it is obviously a phenomenon that carries across a lot of people because a lot of people have to put that vote in to do that.
They've been the voters too often are held by convention. well, I can't jump this team over that team. I mean, you could go out and beat the 72 Lakers, and while the other team is beating, Troy State, and they're saying, well, we can't jump, just because they beat the 72 Lakers, we can't jump the team that beat Troy State. That's just, my experience with the polls, I spent 2 years as a voter in Pittsburgh in the early 90s. And one of my frustrations with the poll was that through all that time, I didn't feel like the fellow voters were really paying attention to the season. I remember LaSalle. I voted LaSalle number one for like 5 consecutive weeks at the end of the 91 season. They were like 31-2 by the end of it. They had Lionel Simmons, who was an all-time great college player. They had 2 other NBA guys. They're playing in a bad league, not a mid-major league, I should say, not a bad league, a mid-major league. And so nobody else would vote for them. And I felt like it was a year in which there wasn't any particular standout team until we got to the end, and UNLV flipped the switch and became phenomenal in the tournament. But there wasn't any. That UNLV team lost 5 games in the regular season. They were not a contender for the number 1 ranking, but they wouldn't rank the others wouldn't rank LaSalle number 1. So that got me frustrated. And then at the end of my second year, they came to me and said, we're giving it's your turn's over. And I'm like, what do you mean my turn's over? Like, the other guy doesn't really even follow basketball. Why are you doing it? Because it's his turn. Like, that was it. I swore that day I would never vote again. I think I got 2 phone calls over the years, one in Memphis and maybe one in Cincinnati, and I told them never to call me again. And honestly, this is why I tell people not to pay attention to the polls, Jim. Because since the 2020 season, the 2000 season, when I went to the Sporting News, and continuing on to today, between 100 and 65% of my job, I do a lot more other things now, college football, NFL, soccer. So it's down to about 65% of my jobs is college basketball. Maybe it's even 75 because I do all the other stuff on the side with BTN and Fox, etc. So about, let's say 75% of my job to 100% was college basketball. And in those 24 years, getting on 25, I think I've looked at the polls 4 times. And somehow I have managed to do my job. That's why I try to tell people when they get upset about these things, how little they mean. That I can cover college basketball on a daily basis for 25 years and almost never look at them. That should tell you everything about how useless they are.
Absolutely. And the preseason polls are the worst thing, because I think that has too much. Not in basketball, it doesn't matter. That basketball is going to take care of itself with the wide open tournament. So I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It still will have an impact probably on some things, but not nearly.
It does not impact
football.
It does not impact the committee. I mean, I've been told that they have it in there. It is not on the team sheet. So you have to say, can I see the AP poll? I mean, that's how, no one really, and I don't think at this point, any committee member would want to embarrass themselves by saying, can I see the AP poll? I mean, I think they've all been convinced that it's useless. So that's how little it means in basketball. And I think, and I agree with you about the football poll, the preseason poll influencing how it all develops. But I don't think it matters that much to them anymore either. I mean, I think they have a harder job in the football committee room because of and I wrote about this a week or 2 ago, the lack of inter-conference competition makes the football committee's job much harder. Yes. Because we've seen, why do we know the SEC is a phenomenal basketball league? Because they've beaten everybody, and they really beat the ACC. I mean, a lot of those SEC wins are at the expense of the ACC. But there's still significant success against every other major conference. So we know, and it's a number of games. It's not a small number. So we know what the relative strength is. The football people don't have that. So people get upset about them going by team records. But what do you want them to go by? Strength of schedule is it's an invention. I mean, it's a guess. Because how do you know if Alabama's only out of conference game significantly is Wisconsin, which is what, the 12th best team, 8th best team in the Big Ten, whatever it is? That doesn't tell you anything. And that's the reality for the vast majority of major teams, of contending teams for college football playoff bids or seeds.
Yeah, and even with football, now see, I love the fact that the CFP poll doesn't come out until like 7 weeks into the season.
Right.
That's what you do. You take 2/3 of the season, you look at it, you evaluate it, you get a good idea of where teams probably are, and you should have an idea by then. They're playing conference games. You can't just do it a couple weeks in because most everyone is just playing those non-con cupcakes. So now you've had conference games that you played, and you have a pretty good idea just by watching these teams of how good they are and whatnot. So that's great. I understand also they're not going to not put out these polls because guess what? It gives fodder for people like me and you to chatter about. And and more importantly, the fans, they want to see that. The fans of the teams that are not ranked one. So they've got hundreds of fan bases that just get to chime in, and I get it. So, and I shouldn't complain because that's part of what I do every day. But I'm not pious enough to not recognize the fact that, hey, I get it, people. I'm right there, but you got to make hay when the sun shines, and you can only use grass to make hay. So it is
the CFP committee putting out that Tuesday ranking starting at the beginning of November. So it's really they only do it for a month. Because I know that it always has coincided with the Champions Classic, which is usually the second week of November, early Monday or Tuesday usually of November. And so they put it out then. So they only do it 4 times. There are people who have suggested that they get themselves by doing this, the committee gets itself wrapped up in okay, well, how do we move them ahead? And I don't worry about that. It's something that it really helps the interest in the playoff for them to do it. As long as they're only doing it for a limited period of time. It is, I have criticized it as a reality show, which it kind of is, but I understand that it helps them build audience and attention for the ultimate reveal of the bracket on what you can call Selection Sunday now in football. I understand, and so I'm not totally against commerce, so I get it. But the AP poll is, that's commerce for the AP. But I try to tell people who follow the sports, don't waste your time with it. It's not worth it.
I agree. Indiana is not having a great start to their season, which I can't say that it's all that unexpected, but going into Nebraska and losing for a 4th consecutive time should simply not be acceptable. I mean, I don't know another way to put it. And it's not a knock on Nebraska because Fred Hoiberg has done a hell of a job, does a hell of a job. He's beat Indiana 4 straight times. So congratulations to him. But they don't have the resources. That school doesn't have the it's not in a state that produces the talent that this state does. It doesn't have the allure, doesn't have the tradition, doesn't have there's 1,000 things I could list. And so it should just not be acceptable. And Indiana just continues to appear to be mired in this level of mediocrity, no matter what has changed over the last 4 years. And I'm not proposing for anything. There's the big debate that's going on now with fans and I'll admit, in years past, in times past, I'd be leading that parade. I would be the, what do you call the guy that is out in front of the band?
Drum major.
I would be the drum major out there just leading the deal. But I'm like, you know what? I hope that I've learned that's not going to do me any good. And it doesn't do listeners any good, but they're free to do what they want. But my premise is, it's going to take care of itself. If if you're in the camp of people that want change, well, that'll happen if change is warranted, but you're going to have to go through a period of warranted change. They don't fire successful coaches. They don't fire winning coaches. If you're on the other side, well, Indiana has a full season yet to which they can turn things around. They can start winning games. They can do different things. I'm not saying it's not possible. So, but I'm just going, and I'm going to let it play out. But along the way, I will talk about the progress, where they are. And right now, that progress is not good. They're not getting better. And as a matter of fact, they're almost regressing.
Well, I think it's an interesting conundrum because there were moments when I thought they would be competitive on Friday night, that I thought they played stretches of good basketball, but they weren't very long. One of the curiosities of Friday night is that analysts in general and critics largely of what's happened at Indiana basketball for the last 4 years have focused on the relative absence of three-point shooting, and certainly the de-emphasis on three-point shooting, while so much of basketball has become more about that. At IU for 3 years, it was not a huge factor. And then on Friday night, it's like pop a shot. I mean, they're like firing them up from everywhere. Yeah. And that was just really surprising. And I'm not saying
it's out of character. And
so that's one of the curiosities about their performance on Friday night. I didn't feel like that there were players in that game that I thought didn't warrant being in the game and didn't warrant it based on how they played that night. And yet in crucial situations when the game was still competitive, was still available to be retaken. I don't think you could say that they were that they could take it, but it needed to be retaken because they were behind but not out of it. I don't know, 7 points, 9 points. You're still in the game. And there was at least one player out there that I'm like, that guy hasn't played well enough to be in this game tonight, and certainly not at this juncture, not when the game is on the line. And those situations puzzled me. I wondered about, like, are you hoping he's going to play better now, or are you not? Did you miss the fact that he was taking all these difficult shots and making all these mental errors? Did you see that and just ignore it, or just assume that he would not make those errors, the same errors in the second half? I was puzzled by that. So ultimately, that wasn't the only thing that got them beaten. There were myriad factors that got them handled in the way that they were. But I did wonder about that. I'm not a huge believer in shooting 36 threes or whatever the final number was if you're only going to make 9 of them. I mean, you shoot 36 threes if you're making 14, 15, because it's changing the game. I was puzzled by that approach. I thought that there were times when Miles Rice played really well in that game and delivered a performance for stretches in that game that was suggestive of like one of the best point guards in the league. And I just didn't think there was enough following of that among the plurality of his teammates. Wasn't everybody, but with Miles playing at the level he was, I thought that there should have been more players that went along with that effort, and not enough did.
Yeah, the one thing that when I watch this team, Todd Leary's on with us each week. We do the post-game basketball shows, and I love his knowledge. I love his love for the game. And he has a deep student love of the game. He played for Bob Knight. He still has his notebooks. He talks about everything he talks about you can tell this dude has been taught. And it's just like anybody else that played in that era. But one of the things he has long talked about is positive touches. he watches the team positive. I don't see much of that, but I also watch the body language. And Mackenzie Mbako, I'm like, boy, half the time he looks like he doesn't even want to be there. And I'm not blaming him because I don't know what is behind maybe he's frustrated with how the schematic things are going. I don't know. So I'm not judging him. I'm just pointing out that I see this and that it's an obvious thing. And I think that there's something behind that in and of itself, because if you watch other teams, if you watch teams that are winning, teams that are successful, you don't really see that. You just see this big group of guys there that seem like they are all one. This team does not seem to be that, and they do not have a consistent level of similar play. It's like you don't know what you're going to get from game to game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you go back to the Bahamas in the first 2 days, the lack of performance there, and then they turned it around on the third day, played better, and then there seemed to be some reason to be hopeful. They win a league game, and then I will defend the loss on Friday night to the extent that is one of the really difficult arenas in which to play. It doesn't get enough of that nationally, enough understanding of how difficult it is to play at Nebraska. Their fans are among the most loyal in college basketball. It's not known widely, but they've been in the league for a decade now, and I've been at BTN that entire time. And I can't remember the time when we had a game of theirs on BTN and you looked and you're like, where are all the people? I mean, other than during the pandemic, that's the only time. Because they're always there. And they only made, and then in that time, they made the tournament in 2014 and they made it again last year. And that was all. And yet they're still there every time. So that's a difficult building in which to play. But that doesn't forgive every loss, and it certainly doesn't forgive the level of performance. You can play great and lose on the road. It's going to happen. That's not what happened Friday night. Like I said, they had some good stretches, but it was overall poor performance, and it felt like a disjointed performance in terms of that the overabundance of 3-point shooting we talked about, the lack of awareness, the apparent lack of awareness of players and how they were performing. I was perplexed by what I saw Friday night, almost as perplexed as I was in the Louisville game. Nothing could quite equal that. Certainly, Indiana fans should hope nothing will equal that in terms of disappointment. But it was in that neighborhood, and you don't want to be back in that neighborhood at all this year.
No, and unfortunately, I don't think this team makes the NCAA tournament. Partly because they're in the Big Ten, and they're going to face a ton of teams this year that are going to make the NCAA tournament. But it's going to be a rough conference season, and having already lost a road game that is not even in the upper echelon of what I would consider tough road games. And that means you have to win virtually every home game. Every home game you lose has to be made up someplace else.
To make up for the Bahamas, they do have to win virtually every home game. And honestly, that's going to be true for almost every team that wants to get in this year. I'm talking about teams in the SEC as well. I don't see. I mean, can you drop one? Yeah, but you're going to have to win some on the road to make up for it. Absolutely, they're going to have to dominate at home, and then they're going to have to pick off some teams on the road, and it's not going to be easy. Who do you look at and say, yeah, that's one we get? I mean, it's not. I mean, on paper, you can always go in and play great. I mean, they could have done that on Friday night. They played 10 minutes, 12 minutes at the first 15 or whatever, where even with McKenzie in foul trouble, they were in the game. And then eventually it started to turn, and then it turned big in the latter part of the second half. I mean, you can win on the road, but you're not going to win a lot. And I think that's true of most teams in the Big Ten. I'd say, I've had some conversations with different analysts at the network, and one suggested that they thought that the Big Ten winner could go 13-7, which is pretty much I win every home game and I win 3 on the road. I mean, that's
about
I don't know if that'll,
what I think.
Yeah, I don't know if that'll prove to be true, but that's so. Yeah, when you said you got to win every home game, I mean that's the starting point if you want to have a shot at getting in the NCAAs. That's a guarantee. You have to, and not like you don't have to win literally every home game, but every home game you don't win, for every one you don't win, you have to get one on the road you're not supposed to.
I agree. Hey, we've got to take a break. The great Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News is with us. We've got more coming up. It's CFP week. Indiana travels to South Bend to open up the college football playoffs in the first 12-team playoff era. Looking forward to it. We're back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's C-O-Y-L-E, to receive a discounted fundraiser. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today.
At Ben Davis Chevrolet and Ben Davis Ford in Auburn, we're your one-stop shop for all of your automotive needs. We have the area's best selection of over 300 vehicles, including new cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs. Plus a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles in stock. And if we don't have what you're looking for, we'll find it for you. We also have top-of-the-line service and parts, plus a collision repair center, and we're competitively priced on everything. For sales, service, collision, parts, and more, we do it all. Come see us today or visit us online at BenDavisChevrolet.com and BenDavisFord.com.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Glad to have you with us. It's CFP week. Indiana and Notre Dame will open up the first 12-team playoff this Friday night up in South Bend at Notre Dame Stadium. Mike, that is the first game Notre Dame has ever played in Notre Dame Stadium on a Friday. So that's kind of unique. And however thousands of years that stadium has been open, I'm not exactly sure how long it has been there, but pretty cool. Just so many firsts, obviously, for this thing. It's a big deal. It's a big deal for Notre Dame even. People, I don't know if people realize this is a big deal for the Irish.
Oh, absolutely. Why wouldn't it be? To have a home game in the college football playoff, it's certainly, for all the history that's been recorded there, and it's been a truckload, it's absolutely another piece to add to that. You've gone from the Four Horsemen and all the various Heisman winners, and now to the first game in the college football playoff. I think that's really cool. I think the fact that is going to happen this week is very exciting. And the fact that they're doing it against an in-state opponent that they almost never play, I think that makes it all the more fun.
Oh, absolutely. And I think this is a great matchup. Literally, when you compare these teams, the running game of Notre Dame, which is pretty good, against the running defense of Indiana, which is really good, number one in the country good. So that's going to be a test. Then you have Notre Dame's defense, great secondary, good linebackers, so defensive front, which is going to allow Indiana to either, if they can establish the run, which is what I think that they're going to have to do. They have to establish the run, and if they can get the run going against Notre Dame, I think the Irish will be in trouble, even though they have a really, really good secondary. That's going to force them to not allow them to put 8 guys in the box and drop other guys back. And boy, then that's when Indiana can just bite your head off.
It's an interesting matchup. And yeah, I know a lot of people around college football are assuming that because Indiana did not beat an elite team that that they aren't all that. And I think that anybody who's actually watched them, instead of just assuming, I think they understand that they're pretty exceptional. I mean, they may not be the best team in the country, but they certainly are not some lightweight. They are a significant team, and they have significant strengths. And it's, one of the things that's interesting about the way this all works out semantically, I guess, is that if you look at Notre Dame's accomplishments, their one win over a significant team was against Texas A&M, and on the road. And so it's a good win. I'm not downgrading that. The rest of it, I mean, a lot of Army, Navy, a lot of ACC teams, not the really good ones. That there were 4 serious contenders in the ACC. Notre Dame played none of them. I think the strongest ACC team they played was Louisville, which was never really in danger of making the playoff. So I don't look at this as Notre Dame comes in with some significant resume that Indiana can't match. Now, they do have the advantage of the home game, and that's not nothing, because Notre Dame is a difficult place to play. But those who watched the Ohio State game saw a team that was in a football game until 2 things happened. One, a punt was blocked. That can't happen. Obviously, if you're going to win at Notre Dame, you can't have another punt blocked. And 2, they gave up a long punt return, a long punt return touchdown. And those 2 special teams plays were worth 2 touchdowns. One of them had to be slightly earned because the punt didn't go into the end zone, but you only had to score from like the 11 or whatever. And the other one was an automatic 7 points. It completely turned the game around. And so, although the score was significant, Ohio State did not dominate Indiana. The one thing that Indiana did really poorly in that game that they certainly can't repeat in this playoff at any stage is they didn't protect Curtis Rourke. But part of that as well was dictated by all the running pages being ripped out of the playbook by the 2 plays that I just talked about. And so Ohio State knew that Indiana had to throw, and they threw their significant pass rush up against the Hoosiers, and the Hoosiers couldn't block it. And that partly was on the offensive line and the backs who were supposed to pick it up. It was partly schematic, but it was mostly back to those 2 plays I talked about. if you take those 2 plays away, it's a different football game. Probably still same outcome generally in terms of the victor, but not the same margin and the same fan reaction or media reaction nationally, which is, well, see, they were never that good. They go to Ohio State and they get hammered. That's a very limited perspective of what happened. Indiana has to certainly play not perfect football, but close to flawless. But you know what? Notre Dame does too. No, if Notre Dame hands 2 special teams touchdowns to Indiana, I'll tell you right now, if Indiana gets 2 special teams touchdowns handed to them, they're going to win. I will promise you that.
Cannot disagree with you. I don't know if you have a few extra minutes. I've got to take a hard break. If you do, great. If not, I understand because you're a busy man. But we've got to take a quick break from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. I want to talk some more CFP. We talked too much basketball early on, right after this. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
All right. How's everybody today? Good, good. All right, game week, game prep. You know, take the preparation, attention to detail, sense of urgency at practice, energy to another level. We got to get it back to game week. We've had good practices, but you know, we weren't getting ready to play, so everybody's got to ramp it up a notch, players and coaches. So with that, I'll open up the questions.
Curt Cignetti, as he prepares for, I don't know how I got you kicked out. Curt Cignetti, that was Curt Cignetti, of course, Indiana football coach, as the Hoosiers prepare to take on the Fighting Irish Friday night in the opening of the college football playoffs. Mike, all eyes and all ears are going to be watching this game because there's no other game in town. It's on a
Right.
Friday night. It's like perfect. This is another opportunity for Indiana for a commercial, in essence, a recruiting commercial, just all kinds of things. But more importantly, and I know that, people, whether it's Signetti or all the staff and all that, would probably bristle at this, but it's an opportunity to get that legitimate stamp on this program. And I know that I'm not saying that they need to be legitimized. I know that there are people that are still on that other side. I'm like, okay, well, if you do that, that kind of fills that void. So there's just so many things that this would benefit Indiana, and not just winning, of course, but there's a lot of things that a win would bring for the program.
Oh, there's no doubt. But I think if you asked Kurt or Coach Sig, as they like to call him, I think that what he would say is we get to continue and pursue a national championship, and we think we can win this. And I think that of all the college football seasons in recent memory, I don't think there's anybody that's still active that has to look at this and say, hey, it's nice to be here. I just don't think that. I mean, maybe SMU, it's going to be hard to win 4 games. I don't love this Clemson team, so it's going to be hard to win 4 games, et cetera. Boise, but if you look around, I mean, there's a lot of opportunity here. There's nobody in this playoff that you can look at and say, yeah, even on our best day, I don't think if you're in this, I don't think there's anybody you look at and you say, no, we can't do that. And like, that's not been college football in the last decade. During the 4-team era, there were usually multiple teams that the average team would look at and say, if we're going to win a game against them, we have to be at home, probably need a little weather help, whatever, we need them to not be paying attention. Well, that's not going to happen. You're not going to get that in a playoff situation. So you have to go into this believing that you can win it. And I think I think you have to win one game at a time to get there. But I think that you have to believe you can win this. If you don't believe you can win this, I don't think you've been paying attention to how this season has played out. There's nobody that's unassailable. There are teams that their best is better than your best, but there's no assurance that that team has to get to its best.
No, because every game brings a different scenario. There are always mistakes or turnovers or things that were unexpected that a game can change. Who knows? You may have a running back that is wide open, scoring a touchdown, and drops the ball before he crosses the goal line. Who knows? That
Think
can
about it
change.
this way, Jim. The SEC champion, this year's SEC champion, which I think is not, I haven't paid attention, but the number 1 seed in this tournament, needed 8 overtimes to beat a ACC team that I think finished 5th or 6th in the ACC, which is no better than the 3rd strongest league in college football. I mean, I think that says a ton about where this season is and where this playoff is and why it's so exciting. And what I argued for a decade was going to happen. Now, the transfer portal helped my argument a lot, but I always believed that if you opened up the playoff to a larger number of teams, then recruits wouldn't look at it and say, well, there's only 4 teams in that thing, and these 3 teams or these 4 teams are usually in it. So if I want to be in that and I have the option to go to one of those teams, I'm going to one of those teams because I get to play in the biggest games and I get drafted. I mean, so now players don't have to look at it and say, if I want to play in the biggest games, I got to go to Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, or Oklahoma. They don't have to look at it that way any longer. They can say, I can go to Indiana and I can play in the biggest games. I can go to Penn State and play in the biggest games. I can go to heck now even SMU and play in the biggest games.
Hey, it only cost $110 million to get out of the little conference to get into the ACC, baby. If you have $110 million, you too can make it to the college football playoffs. No, I'm just kidding. Penn State. How would you like to be Penn State? They lose their backup quarterback who has played this season as they enter the college football playoffs. I hate that, not for Penn State, but I just hate it for college football. I hate it for the game. I don't know what they can do to change it, though, because of the timeline, and that's what this all comes down to. He's entering the portal, which means he's going to be at a new school in January when the semester starts. So he has to go visit. He has to do all of that. It sucks for the team. It kind of, I don't know what they could do about it, to be honest with you, though.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote about this yesterday. I said, is there such a thing as a problem if there is no solution for it? And there really is no solution that is tenable for both sides. I had one friend in the business, in journalism business, Paul Zeiss from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, who said, well, the simple solution is everybody signs a 1-year contract.
Yes.
And it's up in at the end of semester in May or whatever, and the transfer portal's open in May. And I said, well, that's fine, but if you're going to have 1-year contracts, that makes you an employee. And the universities don't want to be employers of the athletes.
They do it at 1099.
Contractor. But at that point, you are an employer. Even as a 1099 employer, a 1099 employee, you are being employed. And so,
well, how is this money reported that the students are, because they have to pay taxes on this?
Well, they are, but they are not earning that money from the universities. They are earning that money from either individual companies. In the case of Juju Watkins with State Farm,
but that changes with the $20 million payouts that begin next season.
Yeah, when they get into that, we're not there yet, and so I haven't figured out how they're, and I don't know if they have yet either. But where we are now with the collectives and true name, image, and likeness payments, like I said, the Juju Watkins and Cooper Flagg having State Farm contracts, those sorts of things, you are a independent contractor being paid by these other entities. Here's the problem with employer-employee in college athletics, Jim. Okay, football, obviously they're employees. Men's basketball, sure. Look at the TV contracts. Like, what about the lacrosse team? I mean, are they employees? Like how? Like, they're not making any money. Their program does not make money. Even if they make the national championship game, they're not making money. So are they employees? That's where, and if the lacrosse team at Syracuse is employees, okay, so now is the lacrosse team at Lemoyne Owen or something or whatever? I mean, at Point Park University is the cross country team, are they employees? Okay, so now like at Elizabeth Forward High School where I went, like, are the football team employed? Like, where do you draw that line, Jim? It's an impossible line to draw, and that's one of the reasons why they don't want any part of it. And there are obviously there are many more challenging aspects of being employers of the athletes, but that's a big part of it because the line doesn't really make sense. You can't just say, well, if you make money, you're an employee, if your business makes money, because lots of businesses don't make money. That's the reality. And sometimes on purpose, right? So I don't know where that line gets drawn, and it's so complicated and such a difficult question that I know that's why the universities have been reluctant to go in that direction. And the other part of this is that it's often missed, and sometimes missed by athletes themselves, is they're never getting a better deal than they have now. Like, it's never getting better than this because you have freedom that almost no other employee or payee, I guess, they're not really employed, but almost no one else who is making money doing stuff has that degree of freedom that they do. Unless you reach it, like you're an actor and you make a superhero movie. And at that point, you're independently wealthy and you can then reject and accept whatever you feel like doing. I mean, there's almost no other person who's in the working world, so to speak, that has the degree of freedom that a college athlete does now, and market leverage. So that I wouldn't be in any rush if I were them, at least at the revenue producing level, men's basketball, women's basketball to an extent, certainly football. I wouldn't be in any rush to be organized as employees, because at that point, that's when the contracts start to come in, and then you can't use your leverage anymore, at least not to the degree you can now.
I agree. And the Marshall Bowl opt-out, that is almost sickening, because half the team, or probably 3/4 of the team, worked their butt off. They were ready for this reward. The school was ready for this reward. And then all the opt-outs, boop, and now they have to withdraw. What precipitated that?
Jim, what precipitated the opt-outs?
I don't know.
They didn't retain the coach.
They should have waited till afterwards to fire him, I guess.
Yeah, that would be an option. I mean, that's the thing that, the people who argue against these sorts of things always forget that the coaches have been doing this forever. Like when I was in Cincinnati, 2009, Sporting News said, "Hey, go down to Cincinnati's football banquet tonight because Brian Kelly is on his way to Notre Dame. Even though they're undefeated and playing in a major bowl, he's going to go to Notre Dame, and he's probably not going to coach. Go down and get the reaction of the players." So I talked to Marty Gilliard from that team and some others, and wrote a piece about what it was like to be at that banquet that night, when you knew the coach was probably going to be announced as the Notre Dame coach the next day. And I believe he was. I mean, and then he doesn't coach in the bowl game. Like I said, even though the team was undefeated at the time, had won the Big East championship, sensational, one of the best college football games I've ever seen, Pitt versus Cincinnati at Heinz Field. And then he's gone 6 days later. So in this case, it was not the choice of the coach to go get a better job. It was the choice of the school to not renew the contract.
I think that the NIL, though, should, if they're getting paid, the coach, while it's important, doesn't have any bearing on you getting paid. And if you're getting paid to play, then you need to play.
But that's
the difference there.
That's up to the collective to enforce contracts that are complete. That's up to the collective itself to say, okay, we're going to pay you X number of dollars, and you are going to play in every scheduled game that you're healthy for, as well as any postseason competition that the team earns. That's up to the collectives to do that, at least as it is now.
No doubt. I agree. You mentioned you've got a piece out right now. Matter of fact, that Timely talks about what we were just talking about, as a matter of fact.
Yes, about the Penn State backup quarterback and the lack of solutions for this situation. People assume, well, why can't he just wait till after the season? One, he would show up to, I just use West Virginia as an example because it's one of the first schools mentioned, but their academic calendar, their spring semester starts a week before the college football playoff final. So if Penn State were to make the championship game, he would miss a week of school. That's part of it. It's also that I don't believe Penn State, I think once he decided that he had to do this because he was losing all his leverage, opportunities, money opportunities, playing time opportunities, if he was going to do it, if he stayed, he's going to be a backup again. Drew Aller is coming back. That's why he decided to leave. He knew that. Obviously, Drew told him, or someone close to Drew. And so he says, okay, I've got to go then. And if I'm going to go, I got to go now because this is when all the spots are open. And they're looking for quarterbacks to come in and be their lead candidate to start. And that's when they're spending the money on those particular athletes, the collectives and such. So he had to do it now. And I think, at least based on the answers that James Franklin gave in his press conference, I think Penn State said, well, if you're going to go, you should probably go. And I have no problem with Penn State taking that position. If that's how they felt it was best to run their team in advance of this postseason competition, you have to respect that. It might cost him. He did play some downs. Even he played one game in which Drew Aller was hurt his thumb or something, I think. Or maybe I'm confusing him with Curtis. But
no, I think that was there was an injury.
Okay, yeah, he did miss half of the Wisconsin game, and the backup came in and played, and then he was an occasional participant as a mix-up kind of scheme because he runs very well, and so they're gonna lack that. I mean, at least lack it with someone who's done it. They may have another backup who can do those things, but they're going to lack that element of it with him having done it in stretch run games. So they made that decision. Okay, there are others out there who are already in the portal who are going to play or at least be available to play in the college football playoff. They remained with their teams by choice and by the choice of the schools where they play now. They said I want to stay, and the coach said, okay, you can stay. I don't have a problem with either side of that. It's how you want to run your team.
Absolutely. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Make sure you're giving him a follow and keeping up with all of the great content, his great content specifically at the Sporting News. It's free, by the way, and it is one of the top publications in the country. Mike, thank you so much.
Thanks, Jim. Take care.
Absolutely. And thank you for staying extra today. We really appreciate you. We've got more coming up. Travis Miller from Boiler Upload will join us. We'll talk some Big Ten hoops. Back with that and plenty more from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after these messages. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. Hoosier Hanks East, located on College Ball Road in front of Kroger in Bloomington, is everything you could want. Great food like their custom pizzas, wings, wraps, unbeatable daily drink specials, live music on Fridays, and Hoosier Hanks East is home to Inside Indiana Football and Inside Indiana Basketball coaches shows hosted by Don Fisher. Be on the lookout for Hoosier Hanks ticket giveaways to Indiana and Colts games on social media. Stop by and meet Hoosier Hank at Hoosier Hanks East on College Ball Road in Bloomington. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bite, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-701-0838. 317-701-0838. Let Cheryl Sizemore help you find the home you want today. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's Sour Mash Bourbons, Sweet Mash, and Hard Road Ryes, as well as their Cinnamon Vodka and the always popular Toasted Coconut Rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Tuesday, joined now by Travis Miller, as we always are, from Boiler Upload. And Travis, the Big Ten has not disappointed so far. It has done exactly what I've been expecting it to do, and that's be a meat grinder for any and all teams in this league, because I don't think that there is anyone that is standing at the top alone. As a matter of fact, I think there are 8, possibly 9 teams that are, you can put them in a blend, or put them in a ping pong machine and see which ball comes up first. It's going to be a mixed match, but UCLA is the highest ranked team, right? Well, no, Purdue is still the highest ranked. No, Oregon still the highest ranked team. Then Purdue, but UCLA has a win over Oregon. It's just going to be a bloodbath this year, to be honest with you. You're muted somehow, and not on my end, unfortunately. We'll hopefully get your sound worked out. You may have to go out and come back in.
Let's try it this way.
There you go. Better? Absolutely.
Awesome. But yeah, as I was about to say, I think this could be one of those years where you have the winner will be like, 3 teams tied at 14-6 in the league. And, that's just the nature of it. I don't, like you said, there's not one team that is head and shoulders above the rest. And there's 9, 10, 11 teams that are either ranked or receiving votes in the AP poll. So there's no easy outs. Probably your weakest teams are maybe Minnesota and USC. But again, the unbalanced schedule, everything else, it's going to be an interesting thing here, especially when league play kicks back off here in January.
I just counted 12 teams that I think are going to probably make the NCAA tournament. And that doesn't mean others won't, but I think those 12 are pretty locked into making it, which using the word locked is very dangerous in December. But UCLA obviously is just a good squad. Dusty May has Michigan playing well already. They're ranked in the top 25. Michigan State ranked. Those 3 teams are 2-0 atop the Big Ten Conference at the moment. The upstart Penn State Nittany Lions, they're up there. A big win over Purdue. Maryland, of course, Derek Queen and that recruiting class they have. Purdue, Rutgers with that vaunted recruiting class that they have. Ohio State, I'm not sure if they're going to be as good as they were last year, but they're one of those teams. Iowa is a team that is always 500 or better. Oregon, geez, they're ranked in the top 10 right now. That Illinois down the list, and let's see, Wisconsin, even though they're 0-2 in the conference right now, they've got to get it turned around quickly. But lots of teams that you don't want to have to go play at their place, and some of them you just would rather not play at all, probably.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because there's 3 teams everybody has that they play twice, and Purdue kind of got the difficult one there. They have to do a home and home with Michigan, do home and home with Rutgers, and a home and home with Indiana. That's 3 teams that, like you said, are going to be right there, very, very talented, and you got to play them twice. And okay, so who gets Northwestern twice? Who gets Minnesota twice? Who gets USC twice? That can be the difference in the league, really, is if you get one of those perceived weaker teams and can just get that sweep, because it's going to be very hard for anybody to sweep anybody.
What is so far? It's early, only 2 games. We've reached that little, I guess you call it the mini series for the Big Ten, as they always open up with those first 2 games. Thoughts early so far on the Big Ten?
I think Purdue's biggest problem right now, at least from our perspective, is that they need to take care of the basketball. In the 3 losses that they've had, turnovers were a major, major issue. Marquette really got out on Braden Smith, especially on the high screen, and then Penn State kind of duplicated that. And Purdue had 24 turnovers at Penn State. That is way too many. I mean, you have 12 and you're going to struggle in the Big Ten. You have 24, it's going to be virtually impossible to win. And then this past week, they just had a cold stretch in the second half against Texas A&M and Indy and cost them the game. Ended up losing by 4 to a pretty solid Texas A&M team. So it's hard to say what the biggest difference there is. I think Purdue is really missing the defensive presence of a Zach Edey there. And that is an area where I think Daniel Jacobson, had he been able to stay healthy, was really going to make a huge difference. He wasn't going to replace Zach Edey. Nobody was going to replace Zach Edey entirely. But I think Purdue is a slightly better team if Daniel Jacobson is there, just because of what he can do defensively as a rim protector. And they don't really have that right now. And then teams have kind of figured out what they can do to disrupt Braden Smith starting the offense with coming off the high screen and just aggressively pursuing him. So until Purdue can figure that out, they do kind of have a weakness, really. And not sure what they're going to do to fix things there, but I trust Matt Painter. I think Braden Smith is still one of the best point guards in the country and one of the best players at running an offense and running a team. And that is what's going to be the difference for Purdue if they are still going to compete in the Big Ten.
Overall, ironically, we saw Oregon win the Big Ten championship for football, one of the 4 teams that were added. And in actuality, they were the only of the 4 that had success really in football this season. The others had mediocre or sub-mediocre years. In basketball, I think both UCLA and Oregon are going to be a big-time challenge at the top. Washington is not very good. USC is not very good. But I can see UCLA winning the Big Ten this year. And that would be a huge statement for Oregon to win football, UCLA to win basketball in their first year as members of the Big Ten.
And the other factor we will see with them is how is the travel going to affect them? Especially, you've got to get up for a midweek game in Maryland from Los Angeles. So that
goes the other way too.
I'm sorry?
But that goes the other way as well.
Yeah. It looks to me like what they've done is they've tried to pair together some of the teams. I know Purdue goes to Oregon and Washington, but they don't have to go to UCLA and USC. Both of them come to Mackey Arena. And so that UCLA game in particular is going to be very, very special because of the history there with John Wooden, the way that UCLA opened Mackey Arena back in 1967. I don't think the 2 teams have played since the very early 2000s. I think they had a home and home in like 2000 and 2001. But that's going to be a very fun game when they come to West Lafayette. And that's one that I've kind of circled on my calendar is one of my favorites to see later this year.
I'm just looking through the Big Ten. It's going to be a fun year to watch because while there's not a team at this moment that stands out at the top, I think that UCLA, even though they're not the first or the second highest ranked team, Oregon has been, but I think they got off to a big start. But UCLA goes to Eugene and beats Oregon. I think UCLA is the best team in the Big Ten Conference right now, personally. And I think, surprisingly, Michigan may be the second best team. And Dusty May just has a great job, does a phenomenal job of having a team that plays good basketball. He's done it again. He's in his first season at Michigan, and they're in second. They're in, tied for first right now. Again, they've only played 2 games, so I'm not reading too much into that. But they're 8-2 overall. UCLA's 9-1 overall. These are good teams. Penn State's 8-2 right now. No, I'm sorry. They're 9-2. I shorted them a game. They're 9-2 right now.
And Penn State's a bit of a surprise. They really took it to Purdue, honestly. That was an 11-point loss, but that game was not an 11-point game. They were in control throughout the entire second half, and I think that's what's really impressive is they get out after you, they cause turnovers, and if they had any kind of a home court advantage, they would be dangerous, honestly. If I were a Penn State basketball fan, and number one, I would double their fan base, and two, I would petition for them to move back to Rec Hall, because when they've played in their volleyball arena, Rec Hall, that they actually have a home court advantage, and that's something they won't need to do. Otherwise, they're a deeply unserious program that does not value basketball.
No, but the funny thing is, they always end up being kind of a thorn in the side of people. Despite that, in spite of that, and that's kind of weird. Rutgers is a team that's been quietly surfing under the radar a little bit. I mean, I don't know how much under the radar you can be with that recruiting class they brought in, but on the other side of the coin, that's a lot of youth, and I just don't believe youth can swim the oceans of the Big Ten in their first year and survive as on top.
Yeah, I tend to think that, and that's another reason that Purdue is such a mystery too, because they're both young and old. They've got 3 starters back from a team that played for a national championship just a few months ago, but they are also rotating in 3 freshmen, and that are playing some big minutes in the rotation that are, just still adjusting to college basketball and everything. So, that's going to pay off. It's going to have its bumps, but it's also going to pay off in the future. One of the things that I'm looking forward to with Purdue is not so much, how well they do this year, but what they do this season will build toward next year, where they only lose 1 player. They lose Caleb First off of the bench. Everybody else is back next season, and they get Daniel Jacobson back from injury. So it's interesting to see just kind of what Matt Painter has been able to build here. And so far, at least, he has been mostly immune to the NIL and the transfer portal, causing him to lose some, major pieces after a season. I'm hoping that sticks out. And
but I think part of that's because there's not the drive to win a national championship that's not the number one goal at Purdue. It can't be, because if it were, they would be doing things slightly different to be on that trajectory. I don't think that they are or have been on a trajectory to win a national championship. They got lucky last year having a freak, and when that freak is gone, things are exposed. So to me, they are not in any way or stretch, and there are many teams, it's not just them, but they are in no way a factor in winning a national championship this year. None.
And I think it's interesting because across college basketball, you've got a lot of parity this year.
Absolutely. College athletics has been tremendous because of that very reason.
Yeah. And, is there a team that you can say, yeah, they're definitely going to, compete for a national championship or anything? And
Kansas, I think Kansas, I don't think that they're given to win it, but they are definitely, there are a few teams that are in the upper level that I think, but I think Kansas has been beaten. It's not like they're unbeatable. They have their flaws. What's his name? The big boy from Michigan. Daggone it. Hunter Dickinson. He's a weird cat, man. When he kicked the player, I forget what game that was. That's just dumb. Who does that? Just stupid. You've got to have a mental lock-in, but how the hell Wisconsin amazes me. The players they have lost that have filled other rosters, Chucky Hepburn and Connor Esigian, that are important pieces on other teams. I'm surprised they weren't better than they were last year, but yet here they are supposedly back in this fight again, although they're 0-2 right now.
Yeah, and it's they've got a solid ball club too, and it fascinates me to see these roster turnovers. You mentioned Chucky Hepburn. I forgot. Oh yeah, he is somewhere else right now because Purdue's already played him with another team, and you're just like, wait a minute, what's he doing there now? And then you throw in the factor of, okay, who still has a COVID year? What year?
Indiana has played Chucky Hepburn and Connor Esigian already, and not for Wisconsin.
Yeah. And then it's like, Hunter Dickinson, how many years of eligibility is that guy going to get?
Yeah, it's crazy. What's up next at Boiler Upload?
Just continuing to cover basketball season. I know Purdue travels down to Birmingham this weekend. They are facing a really, really good Auburn team. It's kind of their last non-conference major test before getting back into conference play here in January. And then, we've got a lot of other stuff. We're still looking for Barry Odom to fill his coaching staff and how that's going to affect things with the portal and coming out of bowl games and everything. I don't envy what Barry Odom has to do. He's got a huge task ahead of him, and that includes signing his assistant coaches, getting coordinators on board, and then finding a roster. Because if you want to look at Purdue's needs in the transfer portal right now, I would classify it as all.
I hear that. Make sure you're giving Travis a follow if you're a Boiler fan or looking for information regarding Purdue. There you go, Boiler Upload. Appreciate you, my friend. I hope you have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Bye.
You betcha. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, including Eric Hansen. He is from Notre Dame Inside Notre Dame Sports. We're going to talk about the college football playoffs once we return to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios. Andy Moore Honda is Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer for a reason. Buy a new Honda and get a 3-month break from car payments. That's right, no payments for 90 days. That includes the all-new, all-electric Honda Prologue, and you get it for just 0.9% financing. Or the 2024 Honda Ridgeline Black Edition or the Honda Accord LX, both for just 1.9% financing. Get more to your door from AndyMooreHonda.com, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer and your best place for new and used vehicles. When it comes to apparel and promotions, Freethink has you covered, literally, whether it's 24 or 200 shirts for sports leagues, businesses, or groups. Freethink Apparel and Promotions can also create your very own merchandising store. Freethink Apparel and Promotions did it for Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and they can do it for you. Whether it's screen printing, embroidery, digital printing, promotional products, vehicle wraps, or anything else under the promotional line. See what Freethink Apparel and Promotions can do for you at freethinkapparel.com. Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order. Hungry for something a little different? Well, head to the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm with a Cajun flair, like their loaded voodoo fries, gator bites, or jambalaya, and so much more. The Rusty Gator also has live music each Friday and Saturday night with some of the best local and regional artists around. Visit the Rusty Gator Fork and Ale in Bedford and get your Cajun on. Located on 325 acres in beautiful Brown County, Indiana, Hard Truth Distilling Company is the biggest and the best craft distillery around. While Hard Truth is already known for producing internationally awarded whiskeys and spirits like Hard Truth's sour mash bourbons, sweet mash, and hard road ryes, as well as their cinnamon vodka and the always popular toasted coconut rum. Hard Truth Distillery offers so much more. With a full-service restaurant, ATV, and distillery tours, as well as live music, you can spend an entire day at Hard Truth Distillery while making your entire family or group happy. And that's the Hard Truth. Hard Truth products are available across Indiana, as well as many other states. So no matter where you shop, if they don't carry your favorite Hard Truth product, tell them you want the truth, the Hard Truth. Hard Truth Distilling Company encourages you to enjoy all of their products responsibly and to never drink and drive.
I asked Coach Ignetti this as well. I know it's maybe not as extreme as dealing with a team that does the triple, but when people talk about preparing for a team that has a strong sort of quarterback run option component in their offense, that extra time, more than just a week, is really helpful. When you have that extra time, what do you focus on with, whether it's linebackers, ends, whoever's making those reads that are necessary? What are the keys that you kind of drill with them in terms of both pre and post snap, what they need to be ready for when you have an offense like Notre Dame's that's going to run the quarterback as often as they do?
Yeah, post-snap, nothing really changes too much. Our reads are our reads, our keys are our keys, so it all fits into that bucket. But what I can call pre-snap can help on some of those pictures. Now, nothing can fully help +1 run game, like a quarterback that's just simply going to run the ball with a lead blocking running back. Like, there's only so many things you can do to account for that. You have to use all 11. You know, they're using all 11 of theirs. We got to use all 11 of ours. So I can work through that with what I call. But in terms of like pre-snap, this and that, we have our reads, we have our fits, get off blocks, make plays, attack.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, here on this Tuesday at the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. That was defensive coordinator Brian Haynes of Indiana as the Hoosiers prepare to take on the Fighting Irish Friday night in the opening round of the college football playoffs. Joined now by Eric Hansen of Inside Notre Dame Sports, or actually Inside ND Sports. I don't want to give an incorrect name, Eric. Thanks a lot for joining us, brother. We appreciate you.
Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate getting a chance to talk about the team that I currently cover and the first one that I covered coming out of college back in the 1980s.
Are you talking about Indiana?
I am.
Wow. What was that situation?
Lee Corso had just got fired, and Sam Weich was the new coach, and then he lasted a year, and then it was Bill Mallory.
I was going to say, were you there longer than Weich?
Yeah, I lasted longer than Weich. I had Bill Mallory for a little over a decade. I covered him, and so I was down there for David Schnell and Anthony Thompson and Ernie Jones, that group that kind of had a burst of success, not to this extent, but it was a fun time going from 0-11 to playing meaningful games in November.
Yeah, they actually were in a position to they had a game against Michigan State. Had they won, they were going to the Rose Bowl, but it didn't turn out.
I was at that game.
Yeah, it was not only was it a loss, it was a beatdown, unfortunately. But better things have come since then. But can you imagine that? And even then, when you were there, they were somewhat successful. But in the interim, it has been a roller coaster ride in Indiana, mostly a lot more downs than ups. But they're on top of the world right now as far as their past has gone, their tradition is gone, and there's no reason for this to think that this is going to stop. Partly because this is where college football has gone. The parity, seeing these different teams in this, I think it is fantastic. I am loving this. Is my favorite college football season of all time because of these games. You don't know who's going to beat whom. There is no Clemson, Alabama, Ohio State just sitting at the top like an elephant. Oregon, I do not think that they're unbeatable. And so that from that on down just makes it awesome. But what a unique setup to start the CFP off with two in-state teams. Indiana, one of only two states that has two teams in the CFP, ironically, which is kind of crazy. A very historic venue in Notre Dame Stadium. And people, this will be the first Friday night football game Notre Dame has ever played in Notre Dame Stadium on a Friday night, which is kind of weird. But all eyes and ears are going to be on this game, Eric.
Yeah, it sure is. And really exciting. I remember how excited people were for the 1991 game when it was Rick Meyer versus Trent Green.
I was there.
Yeah, I was there too. And that was a lot of fun and told us a lot about both of those teams in that 49-27 game. I think some of it is the opponent. I think some of it is the mystery of how good is Indiana. And I think some of it is the weather and just this 12-team playoff format. I was telling our listeners and viewers on our Football Never Sleeps YouTube show last night, this is one of the top 5 games, most exciting games I've covered. And I mean, you can look at my hair. I've been doing this a long time. So this is really exciting for me.
It's exciting for everybody. It really is.
Right.
I'm jacked for this game. I've been back to Notre Dame, but not just as a fan, not to cover anything since 91. And that was, that was before they made the all the changes in the stadium.
Right.
So it's just a little different, but I do remember one thing. I was still sitting on a 2x6 board as my seat. Have they changed those at all, or they're still lumber as the bleachers at Notre Dame Stadium?
It's upgraded a little bit. The thing that you would appreciate, or all of us would appreciate more, is that the butt size is bigger now. When they renovated the last time, the capacity of the stadium went down because they designed
butt size went up.
The butt size went up, yes. So they added luxury boxes, wider butt sizes, and some other things. I mean, you'll see when you pull up to the stadium, they have academic buildings attached now, and so it's a whole different setup.
Well, it really changes the look of the stadium, because you can still see, if you look, you can still see the original stadium. You can tell it's like going to Soldier Field. Soldier Field looks like a freaking spaceship now, but once you're inside, you can still see the original stadium. It's weird, but the game on hand, I think this is a tremendous matchup. I really do. I think that it's going to come down to Indiana's ability to stop Notre Dame's running game and the ability to run and throw against Notre Dame, because I don't think running the ball should be that difficult, but they're going to need that to open up that passing game. Notre Dame has a great secondary, and they're going to have to force them into dropping some guys out of the box and opening things up, and vice versa. But that, to me, those are the keys to this game.
Yeah, I think from Notre Dame's standpoint, they need to win both lines of scrimmage. Marcus Freeman, when he took over for Brian Kelly, said, I want this to be an offensive line, defensive line driven program. So their offensive line, which was really green at the beginning of the year and ended up being like IU, a semifinalist for the Joe Moore Award. And then the defensive line, the pass rush. I think a big problem in the USC game was they didn't get enough pressure on Jaden Mayava, and USC threw the ball around on them, and that's the number one pass efficiency defense in the country. And so they need to get a better pass rush. They do get one of their best pass rushers, best defensive lineman back, a 2023 All-American in Howard Cross, who's been missing for a while. Yeah, I'm interested to see how IU's run defense holds up against a team that's 10th in the country in rushing yards per game and 3rd in yards per carry.
Yeah, especially Indiana's number 1 in the country in rushing defense.
Right.
So that is, but they're also 9th in passing defense. So it's going to be a test. Keeping the quarterback in check is one of Indiana's biggest tasks at hand, because that adds an additional element. If you let him get out and start running wild, then again, that opens up other things. So Indiana's going to have to keep him contained.
Yeah, Notre Dame had to face him last year, and he almost upset them down at Duke, had led Duke, rallied them, and then Sam Hartman was able to convert a long 4th down at the end of the game, and Notre Dame escaped down there, and that's when Riley Leonard was on the bench with a bad ankle injury that kind of followed him to Notre Dame, but he's averaging close to 6 yards a carry, has lots of rushing touchdowns. He's a handful. Where he's improved a lot is in the passing game. He's about 45th in the country in pass efficiency, which is way down below Curtis Rourke. But if you take out his first month when he was kind of learning the offense and coming back from that ankle injury, if you take those first 4 games out, 2 MAC teams, Texas A&M and Purdue, he's 14th in pass efficiency. So he's been much better in October and November.
Yeah, and that's when you're supposed to be reaching your peak. So he's peaking at the absolute right time. Indiana has had a great year defensively, like I said, is number 1 rush defense in the country. But that defensive front has done a hell of a job of getting to quarterbacks and disrupting things and causing problems as well. They have a lot of experience there. That is going to be key. If Indiana, this game is so equal to me, and I start just breaking down unit by unit, and I look at the offensive line of Indiana, defensive line of Notre Dame. I don't think either of them are great. I think they're both good, and I think they're a wash there. The offensive line for Notre Dame, defensive line for Indiana. I have to give the edge to Indiana there. Secondary goes to Notre Dame. Passing goes to Indiana. It's so close. It is literally that close. I think it's close enough that it's almost a 50-50 game for me. You've got the aspect Indiana may have one advantage here, and then it's at home. So again, I'm back to a tie game. I don't know. Indiana could definitely win this game. That doesn't mean that they're absolutely going to win this game. Notre Dame can cause problems. They're the number 3 scoring team in the country behind Indiana. So this should be a hell of a game for people to watch regardless.
Yeah, I think one of the things I'm curious about, just having covered Indiana before, and this is a different group. I mean, Coach Sig is, boy, he doesn't lack confidence. And
you think?
But you know, how will Indiana perform on a big stage like this? You know, Notre Dame's had these big stage games, and under Brian Kelly, they fell off the big stage a lot. You know, they got to the college football playoff twice, and it wasn't close either time. And then they played in a national championship game in 2012 when it was the BCS, and they got blown out in that game too. Marcus Freeman, they've been much more competitive in the big games, even when they don't win. So I think they're going to hold up. I'm curious what Indiana will do here. And, you know, when I try to look at the matchups for these two teams, I think, what can Notre Dame learn from Ohio State and Michigan? What can Indiana learn from USC? Throwing the ball all over the place against the number 1 pass efficiency defense. So these matchups are fascinating to me, but you know, Indiana, you know, I used to live in Southern Indiana, and I know the weather isn't balmy down there. It's a little bit different, but
Where were you in Southern Indiana?
I was at the Columbus Republic for my first 3.5 years, and then was at the Hammond Times for a year and a half, still covered Indiana. And then when I started the South Bend Tribune, we had a Big Ten beat back then because there was no internet. So I covered Indiana for them for the first part of my career, and then became the Notre Dame guy there.
Did you cover the Columbus East Olympians?
I married a Columbus East grad, and her father was the football coach at Columbus East, John Stafford.
No kidding.
No kidding. Coach
all
the Keel boys.
Oh, geez. I went to Floyd Central High School. I'm a Southern Indiana guy.
I had covered games at Floyd Central, some basketball games down there. Yeah, because they used to all be in the Hoosier Hills Conference together.
They still are.
Okay.
Well, at least Columbus East. Columbus North is elsewhere. But yeah, that's wild. That's crazy how the world's crazy place. That's incredible.
I used to live across the street in an apartment complex from Columbus East.
Your father-in-law had one hell of a run as the head coach at Columbus East.
He did.
He won like 12 straight freaking conference championships. And I still to this day, I'm like, I don't know how in the hell he managed that, but they did. But Notre Dame welcomes in Indiana on Friday. And yeah, the big stage. I think that Indiana learned from the Ohio State game because they were not ready for the noise. They've talked about that a lot, which I'm a little surprised by, not because I don't think that they'd ever experienced that. I know that Kurt Cignetti had been in those environments, not necessarily as a head coach, but he's coached enough places. Right. And so they weren't ready for that. And they did not make the adjustments. I don't think that Notre Dame is a place that is as loud as, say, Ohio State. So that will help a little bit. And I also think that they've learned. And Cignetti has talked about that. He said, I will never do that again. Going to the straight silent count. Ohio State was just timing and teeing off on Indiana. So they did not make the adjustment there. Defensively, they held Ohio State to their lowest output of the season. And other than 2 plays that gave up 49 yards, it would have been even substantially lower than that. So Indiana's defense has played well all year, no matter who were Michigan, or Ohio State, doesn't matter. The offense, they've had great all year, except for the couple of things. They have to make the adjustments that they learned in that Ohio State game. I don't think that they're going up a defensive line that's as tough as they faced at Ohio State, and that's not a knock on Notre Dame. Ohio State's very, very good. But I think that is their opportunity. They have to take advantage, and they have to beat Notre Dame's defensive line.
I would agree. They do have to beat Notre Dame's defensive line. Howard Cross coming back is a big add in. Again, this was a guy that was second team All-American on every All-America team last year. He's battled injuries at the beginning of the season and at the end of the season, but he would be a present. But yeah, I mean, when I look at Ohio State, that to me is would have been the worst matchup for Notre Dame to draw in the whole tournament. Now, again, you don't know where their heads are after losing to Michigan, but in terms of how matchups go, I think Notre Dame is in a good bracket, not being in the same one with Tennessee, Ohio State, and Oregon. I think those are three of the worst matchups for them.
Absolutely. Eric, I cannot thank you enough for joining us. Look forward to seeing you up in South Bend on Friday.
Well, sounds good. Bring a parka.
I plan on it, brother. Appreciate you. Have a great day and the rest of your week.
All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Eric Hansen from Inside Notre Dame Sports, the rivals outlet for Notre Dame, joining us on the program today. And that's going to wrap it up for us. We appreciate each and every one of you joining us. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.